Hello there. Welcome to the second episode of this podcast. I'm really glad that you're here for the second time. Hopefully you have watched the first episode. You might be a little bit lost if you haven't, because I might update you on some aspects of my life. But maybe you're not even interested. Anyways, try to catch up. Guys, last time I was not in this apartment. I was in another apartment and we had to move. Like in these couple of weeks, so many things have changed already. And I might touch on some of those things along this episode, perhaps. But just to kind of update you, we have moved. We are in a new apartment, but we are very happy. At first, when we got the news that the other apartment had been sold, we were desperate, obviously, because we had nowhere to go. But then we found a better apartment. And this just shows me that God never takes us out of a place to put us in a worse scenario. He always wants what's best for us. And even if we don't understand it at first, we will understand it later on. So I just wanted to say that I'm very thankful for what's happening right now. We have already moved. Everything is organized. And I feel very, very happy in this apartment. So I just wanted to kind of start off there. And then maybe it will have a relationship to what I'm trying to bring, like to the message that I want to bring to you today. And, it's basically about balance. We're going to talk about balance today. And a lot of the times, especially lately, like right now, balance is so, people talk so much about balance. It's such a hot topic, and everyone says you need to have balance to live a good life, to be successful. And then I think it's very weird that people tell us to have balance in everything and be happy in all areas at the same time, because it's kind of like a paradox. How are you going to have balance and be, very, very good at everything at the same time and still have time for yourself and still have time to, I don't know. You're going to understand what I mean. I know it's a bit confusing. I started off in a confusing way. I will talk today about how sometimes imbalance is crucial. Even though this is counterintuitive for us in this day and age, okay? Today I have a little script on my computer. Last time I just had like a little sketch on a piece of paper. Today I have a little script. I'm going to try to follow the bullet points that I have in there. I don't know, I probably might just go out of it for a little bit because you know how I am, but I'll try to stick to the script. So first of all, I will start with my own experience, okay? So my own personal experience trying to be completely balanced and trying to follow these so-called rules that people have for a good life, like who invented that? But anyways, so I'll tell you my experience with this and where this led me. And then I'll tell you the advantages that I've been seeing in deciding deliberately to be imbalanced in some aspects, okay? And then you can reflect about your own life and make up your own mind about what you think makes sense to you in your life, where you are. But I just want to tell you, based on what I've been living and changes that I've been making in my own life. Okay, so my whole life, for as long as I can remember, really, it always seemed like there was a perfect formula to live life. And I don't think this is just for me. I think this is for everyone. So there's a little step-by-step process that you need to accomplish. So you're born, you grow up, and then you make friends that will be forever. Maybe not. Spoiler alert. And then you go to college, you get a perfect job, you have money, you have the house, and then you get married, and then you have children, and then you have grandchildren, and then you live happily ever after. And people think that this is the order, actually. Like, I'm not saying just things that people say that are on the list, because, like, even if you check off all of these items, if you do them out of order, you're wrong too. So it's insane. And then for each of these steps, these phases, it seems like you need to live with complete grace and just a sense of wholeness, just being like completely whole and perfect and just graceful. And you can literally, they paint it like this. They paint it like you can literally have it all at all times. And this is just not true. I'm approaching my 30s. I'm 28 years old. And I see that it really, 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 really isn't like that. It's much, much, much more complex. And first of all, as I said, the sequence at which each person achieves these little things, these huge things actually, is completely different for different people, because people are built differently. They have different life stories and different challenges. And even the items on the list, obviously, the items on the list are not going to be the same for everybody. You know, depending on what you choose to value in your life and depending on the phase that you are, the items will be different. And second of all, depending on, you know, the phase that you are, for you to get to the next level, kind of, depending on, you know, which priorities you establish first, you will need imbalance in some areas. And this is where it gets tricky. And this is where kind of like this, like, mind shift happened for me recently, very recently, okay? I found out about this. Not everyone is prepared to hear this, that you need imbalance. So kind of try to bear with me here. I know this is very counterintuitive, but, you know, we'll get there. So don't get scared, okay? Some people will get scared and they won't even be brave enough to test what I say in here, like this theory that I have. Some people might get relieved. This is what happened to my students, my English students. When we had a conversation class, we started talking about imbalance in the middle of the class. And it was about life and a doctor's life. And we talked about how sometimes it was necessary for us to have this imbalance. And when I told them, and it was actually their idea that I did this podcast with this specific theme, when I started saying these insights that I started having recently, they were relieved. They were relieved. I don't know if you are going to be relieved or if you're relieved right now, like by now, like by what I've been saying. But they were relieved, but some people might get scared and some people won't even test this theory. And some will just think I'm crazy, but I'll just tell you anyway. So getting back to my life and the formula that I was presented with, which is similar to the formula that many of you have been presented with, I could say that I checked off some of these boxes, surprisingly, because given the circumstances to which I was faced with in my life, like I even followed the expected order, which I don't know if I told you last time, but my life was crazy. My life up till now, this is the crazy, no, the least crazy. I was going to say the craziest. It's the least crazy time of my life. And I still have like a lot of things on my mind, and I do a lot of things already. But, you know, like my life was very, very crazy with my parents' divorce and then all the moving. I moved like 20 times in my life. So, you know, I wasn't expected by a lot of people to kind of check the boxes and even follow the order. I was surprised at myself. But, oh yeah, I was going to tell you about that now. I have that on my script. I will give you a little context because I think I haven't told you yet. So just to kind of like, you know, get you updated maybe. My parents got divorced when I was 9 years old. But before getting divorced, they got separated a bunch of times. So the divorce was just like the final rupture. And that family dynamic was really not good. It was kind of chaotic. I moved from house to house, as I told you, around 17 times when I was younger. And then in my adult life, I moved less. I think 15 times and then 5 times in my adult life. I didn't really calculate before this, and I'm not going to be here counting houses. But, you know, so I couldn't get rooted anywhere. And I remember saying this in the last episode. Like, I didn't root myself. And this is actually one of the reasons that I'm very agitated and I always feel like I should be doing more and more and more because it feels like it's never enough and I need to prove my value to people. It's all rooted in the fact that like my affection towards family, parents is like, it's a whole mess. And I've been going to therapy for that. Things have been getting better. But I think a lot of people that I know and that I talk to are built in a similar way. Like not like this generation in general thinks all the time that it's never enough for a variety of reasons. I have this family thing, but a lot of people have other issues, other things. Families have suffered in general, so maybe people, like in general, families have been having this problem. Like this generation had this problem a lot with, you know, relationships, affection with family and all of that. So it feels like it's never enough and that we need to be perfect all the time in everything, okay? So anyways, despite all of this, I followed the steps. I got here. I was born. I grew up. I made friends. Not all of them lasted forever, and not a lot of you are prepared for this conversation, but a lot of your childhood friends are not going to be forever. Some are. And I do have childhood friends that have lasted, but it's okay. Not just childhood, but like teenage years, like early adulthood friends from those times, and even current friends, they like you might stop being friends with people for a variety of reasons, or just lose touch if you're not connected anymore, because you think differently, you maybe are in a different like scenario, like you don't have the same values. So this kind of sets you apart. Like you grow apart from that person, and it is okay. Um anyways, so yeah, I did go to college as well, and this is where I feel like comparison kicked in, because in the middle of college is when the pandemic happened, and like social media kind of exploded. I don't remember it being so evident and so strong before like 2020, 2019. So like that was the time that comparison really kicked in, and this lifestyle situation with social media kind of started happening. And I was already a person that compared myself to other people because of the way I was built. But I think this kind of intensified during that time. And up till now, we're still kind of picking up the pieces from that. And it's getting worse, I feel. And I don't really know how to remedy that. It's just complex. But I just feel like this is where it kind of started for me during college, and comparison really kicked in. I started producing content already, like along with this craziness, I started being a content producer, and this kind of complicated things a little bit more for me, as it did for other content creators. Anyways, but I was already a person that had this tendency of comparison and all of that. And then I got a pretty good job. Like I got good jobs, I would say, because I was working as a doctor. And then I started working. Ei? Não, eu tô aqui ainda. Vou continuar, tá? Vou continuar. Pode? Eu não vou cortar. Não vou cortar. Você vai vir dar um beijo e vai ficar no vídeo. Tem
Você
chocolatinho.
fez um bolo de cenoura com chocolate.
Fez.
Acredito.
Fiz.
Por que você fez isso?
Porque me dá logo o beijo, moço, e vai atrapalhar aqui.
Te amo.
Anyways, so I kind of feel like I got a very good job as a doctor, and I got a very good job with being a teacher. So yes, I kind of feel like that box checked. And then didn't get a house. Like obviously, as I told you, we just rented a new apartment. So, well, in a way, yes, but not, you know what I mean. And I got married. So I really checked kind of all the boxes, really, despite everything. But the point is, and this is my life, okay? I really think that we are all very unique, and there's so much beauty in that. But the point is, throughout all of these phases of my life, I tried to be everything at the same time. And although I did get some results, as I told you, I checked the boxes. I'm very proud of what I've accomplished, but I feel like I could have gotten some results faster, or in a better way. Like I would have done things well. I would have done things in a better way and faster also. And I could have been happier. I could have been happier in the process if I had just been a little bit more focused and kind of more imbalanced. And I didn't give a shit about what other people thought about me or about what I was doing. Or, I think I could have enjoyed my process up till now a lot more if I had been just free to be imbalanced, to give attention to what needed more attention, and then, like step by step, follow through one thing and then another thing instead of just trying to do everything at the same time. Let me just see if we are still here. Okay. I was just checking because last time it just stopped recording. There's just so much pressure and, about being literally the best at everything, at every area, at all times. And I've noticed that this takes out the focus from where it should be for us to achieve maybe a specific goal. So I think this is kind of known. People talk about this all the time. We have like 5 areas of life that are universally like people invest in these, like people consider these 5 areas important in general. So we have spirituality, work, relationships, physical health, and mental health. And then inside relationships, we would have like family, friends, family, friends, and maybe like a spouse or, lovers in general. And it's 5 areas. And then we have subcategories in each of these. And then I started asking myself, is it possible to be perfect at all areas in all seasons of life? And I started noticing that it's really, really difficult. Like only if you're superhuman. And it's a relief to take out some of the pressure from being perfect at all areas at all times. And then I started just reflecting on, should we leave one or more of these areas aside? I told you in the beginning, maybe some people are not prepared for this conversation, and it's all good. And then focus maybe on one thing. Well, I think completely leaving one area aside is unhealthy. And it kind of takes out of, it's just, how do I do this without being, without trying to be balanced, because I want to be imbalanced in this video. But it's kind of like, I'm not a big fan of the idea of completely abandoning one area. This is what I wanted to say. But I'm starting to be a fan of kind of giving more attention to focus more on one area or another, depending on the season that you're at. I will explain. When I started thinking, what I started thinking was that I could make conscious choices, like deliberate choices, without caring what other people thought, and about literally giving less attention to certain areas without abandoning them completely. As I told you, I think abandoning an area completely, you might go back to it and it's not even there anymore. But really, I started being more open to the idea that I could give more attention maybe to one area and not like 20% literally for each area at all times, you know? So I'm gonna bring my life a little bit more because it's a good way to put everything I'm saying in practical terms. So in my life right now, after the brief introduction that I gave you, this is my scenario. I'm married. I just got married like 6 months ago. I have residency tests coming up. I'm a doctor. I moved to a new city. Actually, I moved to a new state. And now I moved apartments in the same city again. So another move. I'm adapting to a new life, and I have an English course that I teach English to medical students, doctors. It's a medical English course. The before me, we have the before me and we have the now me. The before me would think that all of this that I just told you was manageable while still working as a doctor, which I was before I got married and before I came to this city. But I was not studying for residency, so that's, But the before me would think, and the before me thought, because when I came here, I worked as a doctor for 2 days. But then I got crazy because I was trying to study and do everything. But the before me would think that doing all of this was still manageable while working as a doctor, being super fit, like being on a diet and all of that, going to the gym, whilst being inspiring to other people on social media and getting 8 hours of sleep. I mean, the now me thinks the before me was crazy, insane. Who's that girl? And yes, it was indeed difficult to choose between working as a doctor at a hospital because, I was still that person when right after I got married. I had been working as a doctor for like a year and it was a part of my identity. And it was difficult to choose between working as a doctor, working as a teacher, and studying for residency. But then it just took me some time to adjust, to notice that this was something that I needed to do. I needed to stop and just do one thing at a time for once in my life. And then I kind of went into this process of like being in crisis, and also it was a very good time because I gave myself some time to kind of get to know myself and really think about my goals and what I wanted for my life and what I was doing towards what I wanted. That was actually also when I realized that the choice I was making for residency was not aligned with what I wanted for my life because I was like, I had given up on psychiatry because, I wanted to do everything at the same time. So then I thought it was not possible to be a psychiatrist. So I needed to go to residency and I needed it fast. So I chose an easier residency. And I kept running away from psychiatry. So this time was kind of also necessary for me to kind of go back to my core choice, which was psychiatry. And it was also important for me to put some thoughts in place and really, it was, I dedicated some time to just building that thought process and kind of just organizing my new step-by-step situation, and kind of, like putting priorities where they belonged, So yeah, because I took that time for myself, I feel that now I'm ready to expose the process that I went through, so that maybe someone can benefit from it and think that maybe if you are in a similar spot, maybe you will think like maybe this will make sense to you. So I feel now that I'm ready to share the thought process, and this is what I'm doing right now. Anyways, so I think just kind of to go into this thought process a little bit, sometimes I feel like, not sometimes, I always feel like if you're lost or if you think things are messy, the first step is always to start deciding what you're going to choose to leave out of your life for a while, or to keep having in your life, and kind of sticking to this. I think this is the most important thing. You need to really stop and think, what is the thing that I want to focus on, and what can I leave out for a while? Again, you're not going to abandon this other thing that you're leaving out, but maybe you can give it enough water so that it doesn't die, but you're not going to give it all of your sun. You know what I mean? You're going to give your energy, your sun, to another thing that maybe needs growing in that season. And it's all good, because nature is made up of seasons, and nature is a great teacher. So sometimes we need to separate the seasons. I got very philosophical and confusing, but anyways, the whole balance situation depends on this. Like having imbalance, the whole imbalance situation depends on this. Sorry, I'm just checking. So in the end, I chose to not work at hospitals while I work for residency and invest on my course, my English course, and it was great. And I honestly think that if I did everything, I would collapse. Or maybe things would get done, but in a shitty way. I could have, for example, made like a mistake as a doctor, or mistakes as a teacher, or I would burn out, basically. So, and also towards like the end of my studies, I'm saying the end because there's only like a month and a half left, and I gave myself 6 months to study. Like as I'm reaching the end of these 6 months, I stopped going to the gym. It was something that was also a hard decision for me, but I felt like I was doing a shitty job, and I was really relieved. Oh my God, I really hope you guys don't judge me, but I was relieved when I stopped going, because it was an extra 2 hours of my day that I didn't have. Like, it was just something that, like, if I counted going, coming back, taking a shower, the whole process would take me 2 hours, and I didn't have those 2 hours. And although I strongly believe that my health is super important, it's just like a period that it was not possible for me. And I'm not saying like don't go to the gym, or, I'm just saying you're going to stop and think for your own life what makes sense at that point, you know? So in this process, I chose to start going against my old tendency, my old habits of multitasking and wanting to be perfect in every area, because it's not possible. It is still here, this habit, this tendency. It's still in me because it's a whole life being like this. But I'm trying to really make myself think like that. And I really hope that it works with time. So at this time, to give you, like, to exemplify my situation, to give you, to make it easier for you to understand and maybe apply. At this time, my area that I chose to really focus on was my studies. Studying for residency was what I chose to focus on. This does not mean that I abandoned the rest. It just means I chose to do as little as possible in those areas to keep them alive, just for maintenance. But I'm not like 100% invested in those areas. And I'm at peace with that. I'm learning to make a list of things that I want to do in the future for those areas and leave that list like in a drawer or in my notes on my phone, because I see now the value of really focusing on one thing. For example, if I love taking care of my house. It's one of the best things ever. It's one of the things that, as a wife, a newlywed, I love doing. I love having time, like quality time with my husband. I love dedicating time to God and preparing and teaching classes. Those are things that I still do, okay? I'm not doing a mediocre job at those areas, okay? But I'm not, for example, going to keep my house impeccable at all times. I'm not buying things for my house at all times. I'm not doing, for example, a super elaborate dinner, like a super elaborate dish for dinner every day, because there just isn't time. And my partner in life, my husband, really understands that. He knows what I need to do right now, and he really understands, and this really counts. Please marry correctly. This counts a lot. So I don't know, maybe I feel like maybe the reason that we're not brave enough to, this is a big problem. The reason we're not brave enough to invest all of our time and resources and kind of like put all our money in something, and this is figuratively, we're not willing to bet maybe on an area completely because we are afraid of failure. I say this because of myself. I've always been afraid of failure, and this is what stopped me from going all in one area. We're really afraid that if we do it, if we are 100% committed, or 80% committed to something, and we don't get a 100% reward, it's not going to be worth it. Like, I'm investing all of my energy on this. I deserve to get like 100% reward from this. And if I don't, it's not worth it. It's not worth my time. And it's really, really dumb to think like this. I'm sorry. But do you really, really think that by dedicating yourself to something and getting the most you can from it, like investing all your energy and getting back the most you can from it, is not going to be worth it. Like, how would this be possible? The mentality that you should be building in your mind is that you are literally building something long term. And you evolved in that area. You will evolve in that area in an amount, like if you really invest in that area, you will evolve in that area in an amount that you would definitely not evolve, that would never be possible if you still tried to juggle all areas at the same time. So it's really dumb to think that if you put all your time and effort into something and you don't get exactly what you thought you would, or 100% reward, you're not evolving and you're not getting anything from it. It's dumb. It's really dumb, because it's a law. You reap what you sow. It's one of the most, like, it's one of the laws and rules in life that I believe the most. But it takes time. Good things take time. It's universal. An example, again, to kind of parallel all this with my life. I don't know if I'll pass my residency test this year, but surely these 6 months, giving it all, will not have been for nothing. I will get something from this. And if I start again next year studying, I will not have started from zero. I will have started with something, you know? And I'm telling you, even if I don't pass, I will feel good about myself, because I know the time that I've been investing on this. I know I've been doing my best. There's no better feeling than that. We always feel good when we do our best. This is like, I'm sure you feel good. You feel bad when you know you could have done more. But when you know you did you did it all. And then the more you do your best always, you're going to get good feedback from that. And your mind will really build this identity of, I do my best. I always do my best. I do an excellent job. And with this feedback, you're going to create a stronger identity for later goals in life. Another problem is that this is really, really counterintuitive, because I think everyone thinks this is possible, but it's not possible to develop 5 habits at a time. It's really not. You need to develop 1 habit at a time. Every habit book, every person that teaches about habits will tell you need to develop 1 habit at a time. For example, with my gym situation, I have been inconsistent with the gym my whole life. When I tell you my whole life, it's literally my whole life. And I feel like this happened because I literally tried to go to the gym while trying to develop other habits at the same time. So this time I kind of gave it up, yes, but I'm sure that there will be a season where I say, now I will develop this habit, because the other habits will be established already. It's not like I will abandon them. No, it's because I will be, for example, maybe studying with a rhythm that I wouldn't be if I hadn't dedicated these 6 months. For example, I couldn't study for 1 hour when I started. Now I study for 6 hours in a day, 7 hours, liquid hours in a day. But with the gym situation, would it be the best scenario, being inconsistent my whole life, would it be the best scenario right now to focus on this habit when I'm trying to develop the studying habit? Because, guys, really, I'm a doctor and I had to study throughout college, but I studied for tests, like tests that would be in, 3 weeks, a month at the most, maybe even a week before the test. I had never developed a habit. This is sad because I wish I had developed this habit throughout college, but I haven't. So yeah, I'm sorry, but I have to confess, but maybe it was because I was always trying to juggle everything at the same time, and I never gave studying the priority that it needed, and now I'm having to develop it. Because it's a test that is long term. It's a test that it will be in 6 months, that was going to be in 6 months. Now it's going to be in a month. But you get what I'm saying. So this habit right now, it required all of me. It required almost all of me. And the rest I used for maintenance for other areas. Lastly, okay, we're still recording. Lastly, I want to talk about the power of single tasking. I read an article, very small article about it, and I think it's really good. There's no better way to get the most out of an activity than to really pay 100% of attention to it. There's no better way. This happens in a micro level, but in a macro level, it's also true. In this little article, they had a picture of a butterfly, a blue butterfly, and there were so many details about this butterfly, like, little dots on its body, and the texture of its wings, the background and all of that. And I started really paying attention to this picture. And I still remember the color. I remember how the texture was, the background and all of that. And I literally paid, 20 seconds of attention to it. And I started thinking, wow, if I did this to every single thing in my life, and I gave 100% of attention to that single task that I was doing, how much more would I get from that activity? And really, there's no better way to get the most of an activity than to pay 100% of attention to it. And this is what we should be doing. In a micro level with, single tasks and all of that, but also in a macro level. In this article, for example, they say that we don't focus 100% on an activity for more than 20 minutes. That's why, for example, TED Talks are 20 minutes long. And I'm going against all of that because I've been here for 50 minutes. But, anyways, I think that we should be paying more attention to this, to single tasking. We're always, guys, in a hurry. It seems like we're constantly thinking like there won't be time, or that we're late. There won't be enough time ever. But this is an illusion caused by our hectic brains, and this illusion that our brain creates is entirely our fault. You thought I was going to blame the brain and not give you any of the guilt, but it is your fault. I'm sorry, because you determine what your brain thinks by exposing your brain, exposing your eyes, your ears to things that are not healthy. And your brain does not know the difference between what's real and what's imaginary. Okay, so when you start imagining things and comparing yourself and telling yourself a little story that you're not enough and all of that, your brain believes it, unfortunately. So when you compare your background to someone's beautiful stage on social media, juggling all the plates and doing everything perfectly, this is so cruel because you feel small. You feel small because your brain kind of builds this image for you to feel small because you're exposing it to this scenario. So it's a vicious cycle. And because of that, because you feel really small, you feel unable. You feel inferior to a certain person or a certain life that a person exposes in there. And your brain starts believing in that and reinforcing behaviors that prove that you are indeed, like quotation marks all over this, you are smaller, even though you really aren't, So you get really, really frustrated, guys. You get really frustrated because literally every time you try to live up to your own expectations created by what you exposed yourself to, you fail. Every single time you try to live by those expectations and you try to put yourself in a position where you are 100% perfect in all areas, you fail. And then this gives you feedback that you're not successful, that you're not capable, and then you start reinforcing that image and it becomes a vicious, sick cycle. So final message is stop trying to be like other people. Stop trying to follow their routine. Only you know your reality. Only you know what costs more to you, what is more valuable to you, what costs more giving up. Maybe for you, an extra hour with your spouse or with your family or with a friend will cost you more than an hour at the gym at a certain season. I'm not saying like don't go to the gym or whatever. I don't know. I feel like I have to be explaining myself all the time, but just start thinking, which habits do you think are essential right now and which ones can you kind of leave aside for a period of time? I feel like studying is one habit that I've been developing that will drag the other habits. I feel like right now it didn't drag it yet because it's not strongly established like enough for that yet, but I feel like this habit, when it's completely consolidated, which it almost is, it will drag the other habits. So try to think of a habit that maybe you desperately need right now. Give 100% of attention to it and start seeing this habit drag the other ones. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to focus on your one thing while people are focusing on their 20 things, because maybe for that person, it just works because they've been focusing on those things separately for a certain period of time. And then now when they put it together, it works. But they make it seem like it was fast, but maybe it wasn't. Or maybe they're just lying. People lie on social media. Maybe they're just lying to you. Or maybe they're making sacrifices that you're not willing to make because things are more costly to you. Things cost more to you. Or maybe it just doesn't make sense to you, like giving up family time or giving up sleep time, And also, another thing, don't be afraid of failure. Don't let this stop you from giving 100% of, yourself to a certain project, to a certain habit, because you're always, always, always going to gain a lot from what you focus 100% on intensely. When you focus intensely on something in a focused way, you're going to get so much from it. So don't be afraid of failure, quotation marks, because it's never failure. Anyways, I thank you so much for being here. I'm very happy to be doing this on a Friday night. I really, really love our time together. I feel so comfortable and I feel so free. So thank you for giving me your time. And I hope that this podcast will help you somehow. And I'll see you next time. Bye.